Hello YouTubers, it's your girl T from T's second favorite corner, i.e. my bedroom. Um, I know I'm all out of order and all over the place, but I am going to do a Greenleaf review of episode 8, season 1, episode 8, the whole book. And this is my favorite episode, since we've all probably seen it, and you know why. So, Team Gino finally gets that thing done. But before we get there, let's start at the beginning. So, Isabel is showing Noah napkin samples. Which one do you like for the wedding? Now they're getting married in 2 weeks. Now I don't know much about planning weddings, and then, excuse me, but I'm taking out my cornrows, so that's why my head is half and half. I got to let my scalp breathe a little bit. But I said I don't know much about planning a wedding, but I think 2 weeks out everything should be done, and you should just be waiting for the big day. You should not be picking napkins 2 weeks out, but that's what they're doing. So already the games have begun, which is why people have problems in their marriage, because you play from the gate. So she's like, pick, which one you like, and he says, which one do you prefer? She says, I don't have a preference. I want you to pick. So first of all, you're lying. That's number one. And so he picks, and he doesn't pick her preference. And so she's like, And he said, why do you do this? Why do you ask me to choose when you already know what you want? And she said, because I want you to make a decision. And he said, yeah, you want me to decide what you like, not necessarily what I like. You want me to agree with what you like. And she says, no, what I want is to see that at some point in this preparation for this wedding, we're going to like the same thing. We're going to want the same thing. I'm just waiting to see what it is. This spoke volumes to me. Because, first of all, if y'all are getting married, y'all should already be past this point of what do we have in common and what do we not. We should not be playing this game with napkins 2 weeks before the wedding. Because if you're still waiting to find out what it is that you have in common, and in all of your wedding preparations, the answer so far has been nothing, this should be setting off all kinds of alarms and ringing all kinds of bells for both Isabel and Noah. And it doesn't seem to be. So I had a problem with that. I'm like, you guys are not compatible. And we can tell that from this discussion and picking napkins. So how come you guys can't tell that? And you've already been together for I don't know how long, because you dated long distance for what, 2.5 years before you even moved to Memphis from Dallas. I don't know how long you've been here in Memphis since, and you guys have decided to get married, or how long that's been. But you don't know each other's styles, and you're just not compatible. And yes, I got that from a conversation about napkins. The next thing is that she wants to move. She wants to relocate. And really, it's because she's threatened by Gigi. Not necessarily because she wants to move. But, excuse me guys, I'm yawning, but I just worked a 13-hour day, so I'm a little tired. But so she's like, we'll move, and so they've decided that after the wedding they're going to move to Denver. And because Lady May and Bishop are paying for the wedding, Noah feels some kind of way about telling them. And so she's like, well, baby, if you don't want to move, you don't have to. Whew, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's like, baby, if you don't want to move, you don't have to. I'll do whatever you want. Another red flag for me. Because it shouldn't be, I'll do whatever you want. We need to come to an agreement together as a couple. We need to decide to stay as a couple, or we need to decide to leave as a couple. And if we're disagreeing about what we should do, it's just another thing that we don't have in common. This is just something else that is showing that we are unequally yoked. And since this is a show that is centered around the church that they both attend and that Noah grew up in, they should know about that. They should know about being compatible with one another, as well as, you know, opposites attracting and being able to play off of each other. If all you guys do is be opposite, then you're not, I mean, there's no compatibility whatsoever. Opposites attract, yeah, but if we don't like any of the same things, where is our common ground? So we go from napkins to wanting to move. I mean, you know. And then Grace pops up while they're having this conversation about him telling Lady May today that he's going to move. And she busts in, hey, cowboy, you know, all comfortable and nonchalant. And then looks up and realizes that she's interrupted Isabel and Noah, and they're like in the middle of the kiss goodbye or whatever. He automatically stumbles over his tongue, which is another dead damn giveaway. But Isabel, this is where she starts being even more catty and messy. Asks Grace, oh, she says, I assume you have work to do. As if to throw a slur in of like, y'all ain't got no work to do and why are you here? And then she says, oh, because Grace is like, in their school today. You're a teacher. Why aren't you, you know, at school? And Isabel says, I've taken the day off for planning the wedding. And she says, by the way, I'm having the place cards made. Who's your plus one? Again, the wedding in 2 weeks. Why you ain't got no damn place cards already? Y'all slouching. So try not to yawn again. She says, Isabel asks her who's her plus one, and Gigi says Sophia. And Isabel's like, are you sure? You have a special guy you want to bring? And I'm like, see, that's what I keep telling you about. And you keep on doing it. You keep on forcing her hand. She's going to take your special guy. Keep on forcing it. But she says no, just Sophia. And she was like, well, maybe you'll meet somebody on the dance floor. I'll pray for you. And because when Gigi busts in the office, she's like, hey, cowboy, talking to Noah. When Isabel leaves the office, she's like, bye, cowgirl. Catty. Just reasons on top of reasons why I don't like her. But I just think that she's being reckless for no reason, and it's going to backfire. And let me double back on that. Because when Isabel says, really? You know, there's no special guy you want to bring? Noah's looking at Gigi. And, you know, he's like still deer in headlights while their banter is going back and forth. But when Isabel says that, he looks at her real dirty like, why she need a man to come? So I'm like, you still in your feelings about one woman while talking about your wedding to another woman. All kinds of red flags as to why you guys shouldn't get married. Even if Team Gino is never to be. I bet you that Noah and Isabel don't need to get married. Because it's not even about Grace. It's about them. They are not compatible. I can't say whether or not they're really in love. But he still got stars in his eyes for Grace and can't stand to even hear about her being with another man, let alone seeing her with another man. And he agreed to marry Isabel. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So after Isabel leaves, Grace asks Noah if he can take a minute with her, and they take a walk. And on this walk, she asks him, is there any way to get into the devil's computer while he's away in Washington, D.C.? And he tells her that there is, but before he tells her that there is, she says, I don't want to get you into any trouble, so is there any way that we can do this and you not get into trouble? And he was like, well, given the circumstances, getting into trouble is not going to matter. And she says, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, nobody knows, but after the wedding, we're moving. And this is now time for Gigi to have a face crack, because she's like, okay, he's leaving. And I guess, you know, that's just more of a realization of, you know, I've lost any hope of being with him again, because he's getting married and he's relocating. And So she congratulates him, and you can tell her heart's not in it, but she does. And then he says, well, yeah, I can do it. We'll just tell his secretary we're updating his operating system, and just copy his entire hard drive to a thumb drive. And she says, it sounds like you've done this before. And he said, yeah, we had a guy downloading porn at work. And Grace says, downloading porn at a church. And he said, yeah, it's always something. And then he looks kind of over at her and says, that is something I won't miss, as if to imply that she is something that he will miss. And then she looks up at him. And so they have a moment. They have a lot of moments where it's unspoken things and just glances and, you know, those kind of gazes that allows you to read into it like a gazillion degrees further than may be necessary. But sometimes you'll be dead on because they don't say anything. And so you have to infer what they're feeling and what they're conveying to each other through their looks and the pauses. And they do a really good job, these two. Benjamin Patterson and Merle Dandridge do an amazing job of doing what I like to call playing the pause. And that pause is when there is no dialogue and we have to sell it with our bodies. We have to sell it with our facial expressions, with our eyes, with our demeanor, but not vocally. So, you know, and they're selling it. They are definitely playing the pause. So now we know that we're going to get into the devil's computer and see what he's been up to. Meanwhile, while they're dealing with the fact that they're going to get into the devil's computer, we see Charity and Kevin. Now, Charity has hired an openly gay choir director who has already informed her, you know, in full disclosure, I am gay. I had a problem with that at a couple of other jobs. I actually had to sue my employers over wrongful termination because of my sexuality. And my partner will be coming to church with me if I take this job, if you offer me this job. And Charity had told him, and now this happened in episode 7, and I know I'm all over the place, but when I review episode 7, we'll talk about it again. But, so Charity's like, you know, that's fine, whatever. Well, the congregation is in upheaval that he was holding hands with his partner at church. Now this has me all over the place. I believe the word of God to be true and infallible. So I believe when the word of God says that homosexuality is wrong, it is wrong. And there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't care how you say you feel. I don't care how you were born, in your opinion. I don't care about none of that. If the word of God says wrong, it's wrong. And that goes for all the mess I do too, not just homosexuals. But my problem with the church where this is concerned is that, yes, the Bible says it's wrong, but God himself loves the sinner. So if he does, what makes you think you are any better than God? So I say, you know, hate the sin, love the sinner. So let's not, you know, alienate people or be ignorant to them or whatever. Or, you know, continuously email the minister of music to tell her that her choir director is being gay after he already said he was gay. I mean, and really, let us really talk. Now, I don't know how things are in other ethnicities at their churches. I don't know. In other races, I don't know, because I have not gone to a lot of different churches outside of what I grew up in. You know, I've gone to non-denominational, I've gone to AME, I've, you know, Baptist, Pentecostal, but, you know, overall it's still black churches. I have gone to white churches, I have gone to Catholic churches, but for the most part, my life has been concentrated in African American Southern Baptists. And And even all that, you know, the AMEs and Mount Zions and all that, blah, 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 yada, 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 the choir is always full of homosexual males. This is not anything new. The best choir director at everybody church is the gay choir director most of the time. So why are these people like, oh my God, you know, he's openly gay? And her husband said hiding an openly gay man is impossible. And I told you that. And their previous choir director, who was feeling himself and went on over to Triumph with his favorite non-singing flat lead singer, was also gay, but he wasn't open. I don't see a difference. Now, my best friend is gay. And he believes that if you don't confirm your sexuality, then people don't know. I told him before I ever said a word to you, I knew you were gay. So I don't believe that. And neither should you. And I feel that way about the choir director and the choir. I'm like, really? What church have you been to where there's not at least one gay man in the choir? Or who is the choir director? Not no black church you haven't. None I know of. If it's a black church with no gay people in the whole choir, and I mean all the way from, Lord forgive me, but the children's choir on up to the senior nights, it's at least one. You're not going to tell me in all of the choirs in your church or whatever, however many choirs you have, most churches do have more than one, that there is not a homosexual person in it. So the fact that she's like getting flack about this just like blew me for a serious loop, because I'm like, you know, but I guess it does matter to some people whether you walk in your truth or not. I don't really think it should, but I guess it does. And as I said, the title of this episode is The Whole Book. And Charity quotes the scripture. She quotes the scripture, 1 Corinthians 13, if you don't have love, you have nothing. And then she says, read the whole book, which is the title of this episode. And I agree with that because I know, and myself, I'm just as guilty as everybody else. We like to take the parts of the Bible that support whatever it is we want to support and use that, but not what else it says. You know, you want to take bits and pieces and apply them to your life, and you want to live. Excuse me, I must really be tired. I apologize. You want to live in those moments and in those bits of the Bible, but you don't want to live in the whole Bible, because if you live in the whole Bible, then you're going to have to change some stuff about you, and you don't want to do that. So I thought that was really a right now word, and it's always going to be. Read the whole book. And I have like once, I will admit, I've started the Bible a gazillion times. I've started and completed it once, and I didn't even do it then. My mom did, because that was before I was reading. I mean, I could read, but we did it together when I was a kid, and that's the only time. So it's probably like I have not read the entire Bible since 1989, 90. And that was just a mother-daughter thing that we did. This was before I actually started reading for pleasure. So it was still like work, but it was cool because I did it with my mom. And it was cool just to do stuff with my mom. And so we read the Bible. And Revelations was like a Freddy Krueger movie. Or a Stephen King novel. I wasn't really happy about it. But I got through it that once, and then I've never read it again. Because I'm like, it's a horror story. Most of the time. Lots of bad things. I'm like, Sophia, why is that in the Bible? But, so then, skip on to the next scene. You got Lady May and Insecure Isabel walking through the grounds, and they're at the gazebo, which is on the property. And she's talking about all these elaborate plans and what they're going to do for this and what they're going to do for that for Noah and Isabel's wedding. And she says, you know, don't you think it could be a little more modest? It doesn't have to be this elaborate. And Lady May says, now, why would we do this modestly when two people find each other and they're in love and they're happy? You know, we need to celebrate that. And Isabel says, do you think that Noah is happy? And Lady May says, of course he's happy with you on his own. Marrying you, yes, he's happy. And she says, I think he is still holding a torch for Grace. And Lady May says, well, excuse my disloyalty. Like she's ever loyal to Grace, ever. Because she's not. But she says, excuse my disloyalty, but no, Noah loves you. Noah is happy with you. What him and Grace had was the past. It was 20 years ago. They were children. That's over. And Isabel says, if you say so. Now, I keep saying that Isabel is an intelligent woman because she's a teacher. And I would like to think that she's an educated woman. But education and intelligence are not always the same thing. Because you can be really book smart. You can be life dumb as hell. No common sense whatsoever. And that is what I am coming up with where Insecure Isabel is concerned. She life dumb. I'm just like, if you say so, no, bitch, what do you say? This is your man. You about to walk down the aisle and say, I do forever till death do us part. And you don't think he loves you. You don't think he's happy with you. And you think he's still holding a torch for his ex that he ain't been with in 20 years. Two things stand out to me right there. First of all, you a damn fool. But that's been standing out to me since the pilot. So, but yeah, you's a damn fool. And secondly, what kind of love did they have? I would like to encounter and experience that in my life. 20 years of absence. And it's still there. And people can see it on us. Feel like Monica. I got love all over me. It's just visible. I love that song, by the way. Monica Arnold. Love all over me. But I'm like, when Sophia met Noah, she knew. Isabel has feared the return of Grace. And now that Grace is back, she wants to move to Denver. Because she sees it too. Noah and Gigi see it. They're trying to fight it and stay in their lanes because they have moved on with their lives. Gigi does not want to interfere with what he has with Isabel. And Noah doesn't want to mess up what he has with Isabel because I don't even think that he doesn't care about her. I think he genuinely loves Isabel, but he may still be in love with Grace. There is a difference and it matters. So, how are you going to marry one woman when your heart still belongs to another? I don't get it, but we shall see. Then Lady May says something to Isabel that baffled me. She said, all men approaching their wedding flip through their Rolodex of broken hearts and make you watch while they do it. I've never been married, so I don't know what goes on leading up to marriage. But I think that people who are secure in their relationship and are confident in the partner that they have chosen don't do that. I could be wrong, but I'm still trying to be optimistic and still trying to hold on to all men are not dogs. Now, it's getting to the point where all of the men that I used to use for examples, that used to be good men, aren't anymore. So, I'm like, I'm starting to waver in that because all of these people that I thought were good men wouldn't cheat, wouldn't lie. It's like that number was here and now it's dwindling down slowly over the years that I know these men. And as a tomboy, I have a lot of male friends. So I know a lot of things about a lot of people. Because I know about my friends. I know about the women that they've dated and da 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 da. And if they're married, I know about their spouses. And I'm like the human vault. The personal diary for all my friends. And so it's like a lot of people that I would 10 years ago would have put money down. Oh, he had never cheat or she had never cheat. Now, I might want to think they won't, but I ain't confident enough anymore to put money down. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. I think if you get to the, I know people who run around and never get to the point of getting married. But I think for the most part, not all, because some people are married and cheat, yes. But I think that for the most part, when you get to that point where you've decided that you want to settle down and be married, you don't go back and look over. But apparently, Bishop did. And so Lady May feels that all men do. And I'm still trying to find out what's the deal, because I believe Bishop James and Mavis of Beale Street used to get it in. And I think that's why Lady May and Mavis don't get along. But we shall see. As you all can see throughout the course of the video, I've taken my cornrows out. So I went from that to my TWA. For those of you who don't know what a TWA is, it's a teeny weeny afro. And I've been growing my hair. I don't even know. You know, everybody does the big chop and then they remember. Well, I don't remember because I cut my hair and I wear it like a little boy a lot of times. Now, I had dreads for five and a half years. So, had a good little length. And then I got pregnant and my hormones started acting up. And I said I want to do something different and I want to be different. And I took clippers and ran them down the center of my head. And I've been keeping it really short since then. And now I'm growing it back out. But I don't want to do dreads because I still see a lot of styles that I want to do. And I know this has nothing to do with Greenleaf. But since you're here and I was taking my hair out, now you see where I'm at. So I got a little growth. This might be about a year without a haircut. This might be about a year without a haircut. And when I say without a haircut, I mean from, you know, waves. I had waves to this. So it's about a year of growth. But, okay, back to Greenleaf. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's a commissioner or whoever. But they come down with the verdict that Officer David Nelson will not be charged in the death of Kenny Collins. And that's the young unarmed black man that he shot. And it comes down that he will not be charged. And Charity said, you know, she wasn't surprised. Meanwhile, her new bestie, her gay choir director that the world is so upset about, says, you know, he thought maybe he would be charged because the officer involved was black. And I wonder about that a lot of times because in the Baltimore situation, and I bring that up not because, you know, I find it to be any more important or relevant than the others, but I live in Maryland and I lived in Baltimore for 4 years. So for me, that happening in Baltimore is the same as it's all home. This entire state, even though there's places in it I've never been, it's still all home. And so something happens in Baltimore, it happens right here on the shore to us. That's how we feel. And so when that happened with Freddie Gray, not all of the officers involved were white. And that's why I say a lot of times these things are not only racial, hateful incidents. Sometimes it's just evidence of a lack of training. Sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes it's just evidence of a lack of training. You don't know what to do in a certain situation, and then somebody ends up dead. And it's not only black people. The media is just publicizing black people. And now we also have that option, like with Alton Sterling and the other young man who was just recently murdered, and I forget his name, I'm sorry, and Corinne Gaines, also another Marylander and actually a friend of my sister's. But because social media and technology has allowed us to record everything and make it available immediately. You know, you can go live on YouTube. You can go live on Facebook. I don't know if you can go live on Twitter, but I mean, you can record this stuff right on your phone and it's put it on, upload it, or go live to social media, and the whole world has access to it in a matter of minutes. And in this scenario, the officer was black. And it does make a difference. It does, because in a society that is geared to hold an entire race of people down. If you can get 2 for 1, then why not? So you have a young black man murdered by another black man, so one's in the grave and you put the other in the pen. You've achieved your goal for the day. And it's sad to say, but that is how it is sometimes. Because it's not always a lack of training. Sometimes it is hate. Sometimes it is racism and ignorance at the highest caliber. And these are things that we have to deal with. My son, his grandfather, is a decorated police officer. Maryland State Police and New York City Police. Decorated. And, you know, his grandfather has pictures in uniform with President Clinton. And so my son says he wants to be a police officer. Not because he's proud of his grandfather, the decorated police officer, and he wants to follow in those footsteps and he wants to protect and serve. No. My son says he wants to be a police officer because police keep killing people. And if you're a police officer, then other police won't kill you. He's 7. You guys have met him in videos. But that's what he says. He wants to be a police officer so that he won't get killed. He says when he's a teenager, he's not hanging out with his friends. He's not going to go out because if he goes out, the cops will kill him. This is the society that we now live in, that's what my 7-year-old thinks because that's all he sees. And that's all he's seen for like the last 2 or 3 years. And I think, you know, he's too young and he's not picking up on it. But then when he sits down and he tells me stuff like this, I know he is. And so then I have to sit down and I have to have a grown-up conversation with a 7-year-old who shouldn't have to worry about this stuff. And I'm like, you know, I regret the day that I had to tell my son how to act when encountering a police officer. Not to just behave yourself and conduct yourself like the man that mommy is raising you to be and be respectful of yourself and the officer. You have to be submissive if you want to walk away alive. And that's not cool and I don't like it. But anyway, they determined that the officer, David Nelson, will not be charged. And the protest of Black Lives Matter is ringing. Not that there aren't 2 black lives who are at stake here. And the pretty pastor, what's his name? Pastor Skanks. Basie Skanks. Oh, he's pretty. He, on the local news, calls out Bishop Greenleaf and says that he believes that Bishop Greenleaf and Calvary's Back the Blue Sunday and their support of Officer David Nelson went a long way to him not being charged. And so he's pretty much calling him out. And then Pastor says, well, I'm going to go and talk to this boy. And he's like, you know, there's nothing you can say that's going to silence me. My Lord has called me to call out people who are not right. And I'm going to do more before long than just call you out on stuff. And you're going to long for those days when that's all I did. It was like, you know, the personal audit, the church audit, we didn't want to see that go through. But that personal audit, we want to see how that's going to turn out. So I'm wondering now, what does Basie Skanks know about Bishop Greenleaf? And how does he know? So I wonder when we're going to find that out in what episode. Because it's not this one. But I wonder when it will be. So while Bishop is over at Basie Skanks and Triumph talking to him, Noah is working with the guy to copy the devil's hard drive onto a thumb drive. And Gigi has gone to see Officer David Nelson. And they now have a rapport. I don't know if you call them friends or if it's still, you know, pastor and member type of relationship, but they have a rapport. And so she goes to see him because he can't get out of the hotel because the Black Lives Matter protesters have blocked every entrance to the hotel. I don't even know how they know he's at the hotel because he left his house in order to get away from that, and they tracked him down at the hotel. So she goes and she talks to him, and he says he's leaving. And he says he's going to Delaware or somewhere that nobody knows his face and nobody knows his name. And she says the conversation is going to need your voice. You need to stay. You need to say, I'm sorry. And you need to help us to work on ways that this can never happen again, or happen a lot less often, because it's happening too often. And I can't be the one to have that conversation because I'm an outsider and I don't know things. And so people are not going to listen. They're going to say it's just talk. And it will be, because you're not here. And she said, I'm not saying staying won't be hard, but what I'm saying is, and she didn't have a comeback. What I'm saying is, I don't know what I'm saying. There's nothing else to say. It's going to be hard. And he said, yep, I'll send you a postcard from Delaware. And she said, well, wherever you go, I hope that you find peace. And he says, I'm not sure I deserve it. And she says, you do. We all do. And I think, she was speaking just as much about her situation, because she told him, I ran for 20 years and look at me, I'm right back here. Ran as hard and as fast as I could, and I'm right back here. So running is not going to change anything. But he had decided that he was going to go to Delaware, so he was going to come on up here. And I thought I was, going to see him. I go to Delaware. It ain't but 40 minutes away from where I am. I go there sometime. But, so he said he's going to leave as soon as he could get out of the hotel. So Gigi goes back to church. Noah gets the thumb drive to her. And they're sitting there. And she's going through it, trying to find some stuff. And he asked her if she found anything. She's like, no. She's like, if you need to go, you can go. I am sorry. But she says, if you need to go, you can go, because I can do this by myself. And he said, no. I ain't got nowhere to go but to my office. And if I go to my office, I'm going to have to write my vows. And she said, well, just write what you feel. And he ain't had no comeback for that. Again, you can't even write your vows. How you feel about it? If you can't write it down, it's because it ain't real. What are you getting married for? And so while he's sitting there pondering what he needs to be writing on his vows, Gigi comes across a address that had been copied from a calendar, I think, digital calendar onto desktop, and so it transferred addresses. And not yawning again. There was an address from Memphis, and so she searched the address and found out what it was, and found out that it was an abortion clinic. So she went to talk again to Danielle. And Danielle's like, look, my mama will be home in a little bit. I told you ain't nothing happened. Stop coming around here. Just leave it alone. And she told her, Danielle, I know what happened in Memphis. And when she told her, Danielle, I know what happened in Memphis, Danielle broke. And she went into detail about what the devil did to her. And she said she promised herself she wouldn't tell nobody. And so she didn't until she found out she was pregnant. So she found out she was pregnant 3 months. And I know that in, I don't know if it was a character review or if it was in another episode review, I said that Danielle had gave her statement and 3 days later she recanted. And she did, but what happened is that she found out she was pregnant 3 months after the rape happened. And she went to the police. And when she went to the police, and I thought they couldn't do this, so I don't know, but when she went to the police called her mother. Her mother came and picked her up. And I guess her mother called the devil. And together they decided that it would be a good idea for Danielle to go back to the police 3 days later and say, I made it all up because I wanted attention and none of this happened. And he's not my baby's father. And then they took her to Memphis and forced her to have an abortion. And then she asked Gigi if she was going to hell. And I promise you that broke my heart. Because I have a very, very, very staunch opinion about abortion. And when you're forced first to get pregnant and then forced to have an abortion, none of that staunch opinion applies to you. It just broke my heart. This bastard, covering up his dirt, made that girl have an abortion and murder her child. And her no-count ass mother went along with it. And then you find out why. She says, Gigi asked her, says, now that you've told me the truth and we know all of this and we have the proof about Memphis, will you go to the police and tell them the truth? And she said, did you get somebody else? Because you said if you could get someone else to tell their story, then it would make my story more believable since I recanted. And she said, I haven't, but I'll keep trying. And then Danielle gets this wistful look. And Gigi said, what's that look about? And she said, my mama gonna get in trouble. And she said, why? Because she told you to lie? And she said, no, because she took scholarship money. And this is the ding, ding, ding for Gigi. So this happened on Friday night. This happens on Friday night. So Saturday morning, Gigi comes to church and she asks her secretary, Darlene, to meet her at church on Saturday. So she thanks Darlene for coming in. And they go into the office to talk. And Darlene, you know, she got her secretary hat on. She got a notepad. She thinks she's going to take notes and whatever. And she said, I want to apologize about how strange this is going to sound that I'm about to ask you. But I'm going to go ask you anyway. And she says, you know, Lady May's luncheon is coming up. And, you know, Darlene's all gushing about Lady May. Oh, she always gives such good messages. I wonder what she's going to speak on. And blah, blah, blah. And yeah, she gives out her scholarships and is so helpful within the community. And Gigi says, and your daughter Vita was a recipient a couple of years ago. And she said, yeah, Vita was a recipient about 8 years ago. Go to beauty school. And she said all of the other applicants put in an application. Vita didn't. And she said, oh, well, you know, on account I work here and everybody already knew what Vita wanted to do. It just happened. You didn't have to. And then she said, well, is Vita in trouble? And she said, oh, no, Darlene, Vita's not in trouble. And I think Darlene's starting to understand what it's coming down to. She's like, Pastor, I better go. And Gigi asked her, did my mother know? And she said, no, what? It's like, why Vita got that money? And she said, no. She said, First Lady just wanted to help out. Just wanted to be a blessing to somebody. She had no idea. Mr. McCready set it up. And she asked Darlene, why did you stay here at this church with him just down the hall? And she said, and this bothered me. And I'm sorry, this is a long review. But she said, because the Bible says we are supposed to forget the past and go forward. And that's what we were doing. And this is my church. No, why you ain't carry your ass to the police instead of accepting some scholarship money from beauty school is what you should have asked. Because you could have sued his ass in civil court and still got the beauty school money. The hell? And he could have went to jail on top of that for criminal shit. Like raping your baby. You done took some money. You ought to go in the bathroom and slap the shit out your own self. Right now. Go in the mirror and slap yourself, Darlene, for letting him get away with that. And the only thing she got out of that was some damn beauty school money. Beauty school money ain't going to change some scars that he done left on that child emotionally. Oh, people make me mad. I can't stand no parent that's going to take money over seeing justice done for these monsters that hurt their babies. Oh, I hate them. I don't hate Darlene. She got a good heart. She just ain't know no better. But I just hate the situation. But then Gigi goes to Noah. And we get to Noah's little cottage. And Noah is looking at old pictures in his shoebox. He still got love letters and shit in the box. Their prom picture, her senior portrait that says, to my Noah, all my love, always and always, or something like that. And he's sitting there looking at the pictures, and lo and behold, tap, 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 it's Gigi at the door. And so she comes in and she tells him everything that she found out. And she tells him that the devil has been using Lady May's scholarship money as hush money for these girls that he's raping. And so we skip back to Lady May and Bishop. Now, the devil then called to say he talked to his friend at NBC and there isn't going to be a personal audit on their personal finances. And Bishop said, well, don't look at me like that. He got us in this mess. I don't think he deserved no prize for getting us out. And then his hand started shaking and he's dropping something. I don't know if he's brushing dentures or what. But he trying to put his plate back in or something. And his hand starts shaking and he drops it. And his hand is just, still doing this here while she's talking to him. And she holds his hand and she says, when are you going to tell the children or let me? And he like just took his hand and walked on still right here with it. So Bishop got something going on and his nerves are shutting down, but we don't know what that is yet. So we don't know if it's Parkinson's or something else. But he has an illness going on right now that his children don't know anything about. And so then we skip back to the little cottage. And Gigi and Noah are talking. And she gets up and she's leaving and he says, well, what are you going to do? And she says, I don't know, because she didn't know how it was going to affect her so much to harm the church. Before she came in, no holds barred, I'm going to take him down. And now knowing that her mother and her father and the church will be affected negatively, she's not so sure about that. And she says, I don't know, but now I'm remembering why I left in the first place. And then she looks at him and just kind of, wistful smirk. And he says, what? And she says, you're getting married. And he's like, yeah, I know, crazy, right? Why is that crazy? If you love her, then it's not crazy. But you don't love her, then that's why it's crazy. That's why we need to send Isabel on her way. So she just looks at him, and you got that playing the pause, like I say, that unspoken, nonverbal thing. And he picks up on it, and he says, what? And she says, nothing. He says, no, tell me, because, we may not ever get a chance to talk like this again. And so she told him that if the devil hadn't raped Faith and caused all these problems and did what he did, then Team Gino would still be rocking and rolling together. And he's like, well, I'm not so sure of that. And she says, yeah, we would. And he says, no, because I always thought you wanted someone more exciting. And she says, is that what you think I want? Not is that what you think I wanted, but is that what you think I want? Is in present tense. That's the inference I drew from it. And she says, when I was with you, I was home. And he took that away from me along with everything else. And I've always hated him for it. And then she kissed him. And it wasn't no peck. And it wasn't real quick. It lasted a little bit. It was about maybe 10 seconds. It was good. It was a good kiss. And then she caught herself and was like, ooh, I'm sorry. My bad. Now, here's where we know that Isabel and Noah should not get married. Instead of him saying, yeah, I'm sorry too, you're right, you should go, he says, don't apologize, don't be sorry. Which to me means, I don't mind at all that you kissed me and I got a fiance. I'm totally cool with that, Grace. And then he kisses her again. And they go all in, no holds barred. Yes, 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 what I have been waiting for since the pilot. Team Gino gets it in. And I mean, up against the wall, just reckless and passionate and beautiful. And I love you, and I love you too. And head game sick, her eyes rolling in the back of her head and all that. Beautiful. I'm just the happiest fan ever. And then the cock crows and she's still there. So she wakes up and she does that look around because this ain't my bedroom. Oh shit, did I do that? Yeah, you did. And you look like you had a lot of fun doing it. So she gets up, she gets dressed, she leaves. She tries to, after the walk of shame, she tries to do that tiptoe in the house. Ease the door closed. Tiptoe up the steps. Lo and behold, who other than the Lady Dragon herself, Lady May, is sitting in the front room waiting on her. Said, you're up early. Yeah, Mama, so are you. Like, oh, I've been up all night worried about your brother. So I'm thinking that, something has happened. And Gigi too is like, what happened now? You happened. I'm like, she really knows how to cut her child to the quick. Just a mean ass mommy. So she blames Grace and said, as long as you stay here, your father is not gonna elevate Jacob to his rightful place. Now, I don't know what rightful damn place she's talking about, because while Jacob is the only boy, he is not the oldest. And as far as I know about rightful places, they come down in hierarchy, and the oldest gets stuff. Now, I know sometimes it don't work like that because it's the first male child, but I think we done got past that a little bit. But she's worried about Jacob having a place in the church and having a place in this hierarchy that they have that is the church and running it. And Gigi says, sorry again, y'all. Gigi says, Mama, Jacob never wanted to be a preacher. Jacob wanted to play baseball. You forced this on him. And she's like, yeah, because you left and your dad needed help and he stepped in and, you know, helped your dad out. And she said, church is not a family business. Being a preacher, you have to be called by God. And then Lady May hit her with the most legendary line of the season so far. Said, let's talk about being called by God. Because Grace has definitely been called. We have established that Grace has been called to preach. She stopped, she walked away from her calling, but now she's back and she's living in it. But she's human, and so on Saturday night, she let Noah get that good. Sunday morning, she's still up and ready to go to church. But Lady Maiden stopped her from getting herself upstairs and showered and getting herself ready for church to do all this dancing. And she told her, do not talk to me about being called by God. Coming in here looking like you've been rode hard and put away wet. Oh, that line. Now, I have not grown up around horses, so while I understood that it was an equestrian remark, it just blew me away. I said she hit her in her fucking soul with that one. And I was like, it was just ignorant. Why? Why would you say that to your child? And then say, your car never left the driveway, so where were you? And Grace was like, I was out. He was like, where were you, Pastor Greenleaf? And she threw that Pastor Greenleaf in there to say, because now I'm calling you out on your dirt, because I know where you were. You don't have to tell me. I know you were at Noah's getting that ass waxed, but I want you to tell me, Pastor, where you were. Gigi says, it's not what you think. She's saying, now you're lying. You want to add that to your list of sins this morning. And then she walked away, and as if the rode hard and put away wet comment wasn't bad enough, was not the verbal slap of the decade. She walks up the stairs and says, I would be angry with you, but I pity you. You must be a very lonely person. I'm like, damn, did you put salt in the wound much? This woman is hard. It's a hard woman here. But I said, how can she not be lonely if you really think about it? For most people, women or men, mom is your refuge. She does not have that. Mother fucking hates her guts, or so it seems. So she doesn't have that normal refuge. And when your mother turns you away and you've been alienated from your whole family, and I don't know what went down with you and your baby daddy, but y'all ain't together no more, you probably are lonely. And that is some mean shit to say. That ain't why you did to do with Noah. Y'all did the grown up because you wanted to, because you still love each other and you can't barely stand to be in the same room and not be together. So I was very, 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 very happy about that. And I'm still very happy about that. And that will go down in history as my favorite episode of all time. Now, I just can't wait for the episode when Isabel finds out about it. And y'all can look at my review for that because I've already reviewed it. And it was, priceless. But anyway, so after all that drama, they're getting ready for church. Well, Gigi's getting ready. Sophia is baffled by the story of the Israelites. Was it the Israelites? Who was it? Somebody's concubine in Judges. Might be the Levite. Might have been the Levites, not the Israelites. But and check that out. You can read that story. But she was like, why is that in the Bible? You know, it's like horrific. Why is that in the Bible? And Grace said, maybe it's to show that people do horrible things. And I think she was talking about herself. Because sleeping with Noah, A, when they're not married, and B, knowing that he is engaged to be married to someone else. Very, very bad things. But she said the story doesn't end there. And not Isabel, Sophia's like, I know. Then they went to war. There was a war. So they get to church finally, because she's like, go get your clothes on, we're going to be late. So they get to church, and David Nelson shows up. And now we thought David Nelson was on his way up here. And when I say up here, I mean up to Delaware, 45 minutes away from me. I thought that's where he was going to be. But he's still in Memphis, and he shows up in his good Sunday best for church in the morning. And she and he are standing there talking, and she was like, this is a welcome surprise. I thought you'd be halfway to Delaware by now. And he was like, well, you got me to thinking. And she was like, I'm sorry about that. And he was like, I'm not. Well, here comes Kenny Collins' big brother, who had spoke at the Black Lives Matter rally with that was hosted by Pastor Skanks. So he come busting up there, cocked the junk, and unloaded in David's chest. Now, I've watched this episode several times since then, both on the Watch Your Own app and on the television, and they cut it. They show one shot. But if you saw it the night that it originally aired, he unloaded on him, and 4 of them straight hit him in the chest and in the arm area. I don't know where the other 2 went, but he unloaded on him. And so Noah tackles him down. And Gigi is screaming for David to look at her and for somebody to help. And as you would guess, somebody with a damn camera phone is recording this man dying on the ground instead of using that damn phone to call, emergency or 911. So Isabel calls for help. But while Gigi is over top of David, telling him to look at her and stay with her, Noah is looking at her. And he's still, even though he's like in shock and, oh my God, this person just got shot, his face is still saying, yo, is that you? I mean, what is it with you and David? And I'm like, now not the time, bro. Because you just walked up here with Isabel this morning for church after you then got messed around and had a Hostella got a groove back moment with Gigi the night before. Spent the entire night together, woke up together the next morning. And now you at church with Isabel. Just another reason why you shouldn't get married. So that's how we end season 1, episode 8, the whole book. And this is an hour I've been talking. Sometimes I just get it going. But for all of you that endure the entire hour, thank you. Comment down below, subscribe, leave your opinion, whether you agree or disagree with what I said. I love talking to people about this show. It's a great show. I think it's opened up a wonderful conversation on so many different topics. And I'm just so glad to be a part of it. And again, I have to say, hats off, kudos to the entire cast and crew, directors, writers, showrunners, everybody, Craig Wright, Oprah, the amazing Merle Dandridge, #1 on the call sheet. Yay. So, yeah, that is it for the whole book. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it.